Most people think they're keeping up with AI, but turns out they are not. I keep noticing it with people around me, dealing with problems where AI would be the obvious move, and it doesn't even cross their mind. If you tried AI in 2023 and thought, interesting, but not life-changing, you were right, that version had real limits. But that version also doesn't exist anymore. In 2026, AI is building products on its own, replacing entire layers of work, and one person with the right tools can now do what used to take an entire company. And still, for a lot of people, it's basically just a search engine. That gap is growing fast, and for most people, that's where it starts to cost them. That's what this video is about. What changed, why it matters, and 3 things you can actually do starting today. And actually, I made exactly this mistake. In 2018, I sat in a lecture about neural networks and thought, fascinating, but not useful for real life. Turns out I couldn't be more wrong. But then, the early ChatGPT versions arrived in 2023. Impressive, sure, but the AI also confidently said things that were just wrong. You could not trust them with real work. So a lot of people quietly filed it away as impressive but limited. Except somewhere around 2025, something shifted. And I'll just say it directly, AI is actually that good now. I'm not a professional developer, but I've built fully working web apps in a few hours. I just described what I wanted in plain English and it built it. Here's why. We now have agents. AI is now fully capable of doing actual work for you. It browses the web, writes and runs code, manages files, and it works while you sleep. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Let this statement from OpenAI sink in. Read that again. AI is already building the next generation of AI. And still, as of today, if you want the best results, you need humans to bring in judgment, direction, and taste. But the execution layer, that's changing fast. Now you might think, okay, that's coding, that's tech, but it's certainly not where it ends. Coding was just the entry point, and not by accident. AI that writes code can help build better AI. You just saw that. And from there, it spreads wherever pattern recognition and structured reasoning matter. And that's most knowledge work. The shift developers are feeling right now is likely coming for a lot of other professions too. And this is usually where the narrative turns to fear. Which makes sense. Fear and loss are some of the strongest drivers of attention. Job loss has a human face. It's emotional, and it makes for great headlines. But here's the truth. Although it's easy to assume that if machines get more capable, there must be less left for you, it turns out history doesn't really support that. Every major technological shift destroyed visible jobs, but it also created entirely new industries. The computer didn't eliminate work. The internet didn't eliminate work. They built the modern economy. My argument is that we will always expand, that there's always more work to be done. And given the scale of problems we're facing as a society, I think we can use all the help we can get. That's why I believe things are rather gonna look like Jensen Huang, CEO of Nvidia, put it. You're not going to lose your job to AI, you're going to lose your job to someone who uses AI. So the real danger isn't that AI takes your job, it's that you wait too long to figure out what to do with it. And here's the thing, AI is already closer than most people think. I work through things with AI before I talk to anyone else. And honestly, that's not as unusual as it sounds anymore. Because it's that good. Because it doesn't judge. And of course, because it's always there. Look, I'm not telling you this to make you uncomfortable. I'm telling you this because this is where we actually are. So what do you do with all of this? If I had to boil it down to the 3 most important things, it would be this. First, get involved. Not by talking about it with friends, by actually sitting down and using AI seriously. The people getting ahead aren't using it as a fancy search engine. They're automating the parts of their jobs that used to eat up hours. They walk into a meeting and say, I did this analysis in an hour instead of 3 days. And this goes way beyond office work. If you've had an idea for something you wanted to build, an app, a product, anything, but didn't have the technical skills or the budget to hire someone, that barrier is largely gone. You can describe what you want and have a working version within hours. Same with writing a book or learning something new. The best tutor most people have ever had access to is now a cheap monthly subscription. infinitely patient, available 24/7, and able to explain things at exactly the level you need. That alone should change how people think about what's possible. Second, be intentional. Because not everything gets better automatically. We've already seen that with social media. A powerful technology with huge upsides and real downsides. So the real question is, what do you hand over and what do you keep for yourself? When I wrote this script, for example, I started with my own thinking first, then gave it to AI to challenge it, to sharpen it, to smooth it out. Not to replace my thinking, to strengthen it. And another thing to be intentional about, which model you actually use. Right now, a lot of people are switching to Anthropic, and honestly, for many of them, it's almost a political decision. I think that's a good thing. Maybe if enough people vote with their wallet, it actually matters. That said, and this is the third point, don't let that kind of thinking spiral into noise. Because there is a lot of it right now. Every day there's a new model, a new ranking, a new hot take about which lab is winning, and also a lot of doomsday narrative. But let's be honest, you and I are probably not going to be the people who shape this. At some point, you have to extend a degree of trust, and then focus on what's actually in your hands. And maybe that's the right posture for this moment in general. Because we're probably living through one of the most interesting, opportunistic, and yes, terrifying times to be an entrepreneur, a professional, or just anyone trying to figure out what comes next. No one knows what's gonna happen. But there's a question I keep coming back to. Where is the unseen opportunity for me? What can I do now that I couldn't do before? That's what moves you from defensive to creative. And I think that's the right place to be. See you in the next video.